Today we're getting into a topic that is kind of controversial, but if not controversial, well talked upon, right? I don't want to beat a dead horse here, just because it's been covered by a lot of people. And that is reaction videos. That is React content creators. That is specifically on YouTube and on live streaming, right? On Twitch and YouTube Live and Kick and whatnot. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet, as this is my fourth take, and the other 3 takes went longer than 30 minutes, and I'm aiming for the 15-minute mark. So I'll keep it short and sweet. We'll get into my thoughts on it, and who's affected, who are the winners, who are the losers, why it's important to talk about. The legal side, the ethics side, we'll kind of deep dive into all of it in 15 minutes, more or less, hopefully. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, tell me why. This is my second video. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm not too vain to admit that, right? This is new to me. So subscribe, because I have zero subscribers. I would love for you to be my first. I know my first had a great time. Is that too zany to talk about in this video? Oh well. All right, well, let's get into it, because I think there are 3 main categories of people that are affected by this, right? You have the original content creator. You have the creator reacting to the content, and you have the viewer, right? And all 3 of these work in tandem. So what are the pros and cons to each one? How does it affect each party? And what are the outcomes? Is it good or is it bad? And honestly, I don't know. I don't have the fucking answer to that, because I don't know. I think it differs from creator to creator. I think that's the reality. I think the answer is kind of. Is it good or is it bad? Kind of. It's somewhere in between, right? And we'll dive into why that's the answer. But let's start off by getting us into what is reaction content. A reaction video, which this Wikipedia page so perfectly summarizes, is a video in which one or more persons react to something. Anyone with a brain could have told you that, right? But specifically when we're talking about this, I would like to make the difference between live streaming reactions and YouTube reactions, and also separate those a step further from like the TikTok bullshit laughing at a video reaction, because that's not real. I'm not talking about that. I think we can all agree that's bad and not helpful for anybody. It's negative content. It's not good, right? It's not transformative. It's not adding any value. This is going to cover specifically streaming and YouTube, and mostly YouTube, because streaming has a smaller impact on the content creator than YouTube videos do. Simply because if I'm a live streamer and I have 25,000 active viewers and I react to a piece of content, that's 25,000 people watching it. If I were to upload that to YouTube, let's say I get 1 million views, that's now a lot more people seeing that, right? So there's a difference there. But we're going to focus mainly on YouTube. So, sorry, I'm talking too much. History. As with a lot of things in American culture, it comes from Japan. YouTube didn't start reaction content, as a lot of types of media come from older legacy types of media. It actually started in what they would, what Wikipedia says, 1970s, doing what they call the waifu box, which again, I don't think is an accurate just like representation, or at least, equivalent to what modern React content is. But because they compare that to the laugh track of American television shows, which I think is interesting to note that they're taking the psychology of that, because we'll talk about the psychology of the viewer in a little bit. I think it's interesting to note that in the 70s, they knew that already, right? The first real kind of view of it was from this TV show, Naruhodo the World, in 1981. And I think it ran till like 93 or 96. And this is the first time I found some React content. So I'm going to play it for you a little bit.
ああいう酔っ払いいますよ。千鳥足でね。
彼にとってはきっと日本の不思議がいっぱい入ってるでしょうね。電車の中にはね。
Pretty straightforward, right? They're reacting to the video. They're doing what modern day React channels do. So like the show hosts are watching the clip and giving their input. But the first time it was really a part of YouTube was as early as, YouTube's roots, right? They cite the Scary Maze game in 2006. And even more wild, Wikipedia is citing Two Girls, One Cup as one of the roots to React content. So all your React streamers, just know you got your roots from Two Girls, One Cup. Shout out to those two girls. And shout out to that cup. If you've, over the age of 18, you've probably either seen a video or seen a reaction of it. And I think that's super cool. Like, that is the epitome of a reaction video, right? Like, they're not even showing the video, they're just showing the reaction. Which nowadays, I mean, that video warranted that type of reaction, right? But I think that's just like the purest form of React content. So that was kind of the roots of where this happened. So let's get into why the viewers like React content from a psychological level. Now, this article was written by Valentina Palladino. I don't know how scientific you could argue this is. She makes some points that are fair, right? And she starts off by talking about this mirror psychology, which I'm not going to talk upon because it's never been proven. It has something to do with monkeys and mirrors. No, there's obviously more scientific stuff than that. But I don't think it's relevant to what we're talking about today. The 2 points that I think are relevant are binging on emotions and hey, you're just like me. And both of these points could be summarized by empathy. Meaning, yeah, I'm sure you're aware of what empathy is. Empathy is me, feeling for you. Like if you got hit in the face and you're crying and you're sad, I could say, oh, if I got hit in the face, I would be crying and sad too. So I empathize with you. I understand to an extent of what you're going through, right? And I think that's important. That's a big part of why React videos are so well liked by the viewer. It gives you that, hey, you're just like me, which I would argue is a bit of ego stroking, right? Especially when you're watching someone react to it that you respect and you look up to and you value their opinions. For them to say, I watched this video, this is how I feel, and me to be sitting there watching the same video going, that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's a bit ego stroking, I feel. But I mean, it's basic psychology. It is herd psychology, right? Like bandwagon, whatever you want to call it, it is good for your opinions to be shared by other people. Like it's literally just saying, hey, you were right, kind of thing, right? It also adds a layer to the viewing of the original content, right? It's like being in a community watching it all together, which I think is an elevated form of watching the content. Watching a movie in bed versus watching at the movie theater is two different experiences. I listen to a podcast with my girlfriend called Murder with My Husband. A great podcast about murders. It's pretty straightforward. In the podcast, the wife does all this research. She ends up telling the story to her husband, who has no prior knowledge of any of the incidents or what happens. So she explains it to him in the podcast. And my favorite part is because he asked the questions that I was thinking. Because I'm like, I was wondering the same thing. It's the same thing I'm talking about here. And I find myself in the car being like, oh my, I like this guy. Because it's the herd psychology aspect of it, right? Like, oh, where are the cameras? What are the cops doing? Yeah, I have those same questions. And it helps to have those answers in the podcast too, which I think is super cool, right? So that's why I think the viewer really enjoys it. And let's be honest here. You have the original content and you have the React content. Your favorite streamer did the React content. We're doing apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison. The transformative React content is inherently better. If it's good and well done, right? There are times where it's, well, worse and negatively impacts the original video. But more times than not, it is better content than the original, simply because it's the original plus my favorite streamer giving his opinion. As the viewer, it is better, objectively, right? And some people would prefer to just watch the original and make their own thoughts and opinions, and I think that's fair. But for the average viewer, watching the React will be better than watching the original, right? So that's why the viewer likes it. Well, let's get into why does the React streamer like it? And yes, it is as obvious as you would expect. It's easy. It is costless and easy for the React streamer to do this. There is literally little to zero effort involved, right? And I don't mean to take away so aggressively to the React content creator. Like, I think to be a good React content creator, you have to be better than the average guy at viewing it. There's a lot of talent and art that comes with reacting properly. But let's be realistic here. That's way easier than creating ideas, filming for a week, and then editing for another week and posting a piece of content. Like, you can't even compare the two. It's easy. They have their mods. They have viewers. They have editors sending them these videos. They're vetted by their mods. and on stream can go through it, their editors can clip it and upload it to YouTube. It's a win-win. Like, it fits in perfectly with the streaming to YouTube ideology of making content. And it is easy and fast, and everyone likes it, right? It's a no-brainer for content creators, right? Lastly, and most importantly, it is profitable. It's so profitable. I did this, and this is, you know, a pretty bare bones analysis and basic, right? But this is Asmongold's videos for the past month. He's a popular content creator, one of the biggest streamers in the world. He does a lot of React content. That's the reality. And I did some basic numbers over the last month. And again, this is only one of his channels. I know there are a lot more channels out there. I know there's a lot more going on. But this is what from his Asmongold TV YouTube channel. He made 113 YouTube videos. I just did basic view count. Was it a React or was it not? So, of these 113 videos, 66 of them were React videos. 47 were non-React. That's about 60% of the content being React content. Of those videos, he received a whopping 83 million views. A lot of views. And of those, the average view per video is 730K. So he's posting 3 to 6 videos a day. Well, not him. I'd wager his editors. But there's being videos on this main channel posted 3 to 6 times daily. The views on the Reacts are about 51 million. The views on the non-Reacts closer to 31 million. Now, I don't think it's fair to say the React videos do better on average. I think they slightly do better based on the last month's numbers, but not at a negligible rate, right? At a negligible rate. So I don't, if anything, the React content does just as well, if not a tad bit better than the non-React content, and it's much easier, right? And I think the data proves that fairly well. Let's talk about the pay. Now, these numbers I pulled off of Google, so I could be wildly off for all I know. I don't get paid for this. I have 0 subscribers. One day I'll tell you. But what I found was 0.1 cents to 0.3 cents per view. So I'm going to wager he's closer to the higher end of the 0.3. So we're going to go total pay last month on these videos, 250K, more or less. Of that 250, 150 came from React content. The React content's making him a lot of money, right? Versus the 95K that came from the non-React content. So he's making more, the majority of his funds through the React content on this channel, strictly from what I would imagine is ad revenue from YouTube, paid out. So it's profitable. The data is there. It's easier, it's profitable, and the viewers like it more. That's why it's done. But let's get to the actual important parts of this, and that is what happens to the original content creator, because that's the most argued upon point, right? That's the reality of why there is even any bit of controversy here. So let's get into it. I used an example, continuing with Asmongold, and this was a video posted by Quinn69TV, who has 40K subscribers, right? So the reason I chose this video is because, first off, Asmongold reacted to it, but this was another video more recently. This video clearly was well more liked and is by far his most watched video. By far, right? So the reason I bring this up, and again, here's where I'm saying I don't have all the data. There's a chance this video was just that good and it garnished all that views itself. But let's be realistic here. You don't jump from 20K views per video to 100K views per video in a day. Like that's just unrealistic, right? So I'm gonna make some inferences here that may or may not be true. And I don't mean to take anything away from Quinn, right? This guy has been working hard. He's been working for a long time. But that being said, Asmongold reacted to his video on August 28th. This is Asmongold's reaction video, right? August 28th. And the reason I bring this comparison up, August 28th, day one, 60K views. 60K views after Asmongold reacted to it, which is nearly more than double what he was getting on an average basis, or at least on the more recent videos, right? It says typical performance, day one, 60K, average 21 to 40. So he's getting way more views on this video than he was before. And due to his sub count, I don't think YouTube algorithm was pushing it that hard on day one. So I would wager Asmongold's reaction added to the views, right? Now, does that help him or hurt him? He gets more views. That is inherently good for him, right? So to also give him credit, like this, I would like to say growth from here to here, that's all Quinn, right? That's not Asmongold reacting to his stuff. That's natural growth that he has done. This is where Asmongold reacts. And you see there's a slight, the angle, the acceleration of the growth is more dramatic after he reacts on his total views, right? And then it falls off hard, but I think that is also, he's playing a different game. So that's, I don't think that contributes to either point. But the real important piece comes with the subscriber count, right? So again, all of this is him. This big uptick right here was his growth and his momentum. But look at this is where he makes the video. This steep curve upwards was, I would wager, a fair amount from people who found his video through Asmongold and liked him and decided to stay. And that's the most important part. These viewers are staying subscribers. They're subscribing and they're staying here. Yeah, it's flattened off a tad, but he's still bringing on new subscribers, and the subscribers that were brought over by Asmongold are staying, which is a net positive for him. I believe that smaller content creators benefit from bigger content creators reacting to their content. More times than not, unless it's a bad quality content video and they're knocked for it, more times than not, they will gain not only views on the initial piece, but long-term subs who will actually watch other videos from that. An example of this, I started playing World of Warcraft fairly recently. I had never heard of Barney64. I never heard of her, right? And Asmongold reacted to these Scarab Lord adventures, and they were incredible, right? I subscribed to Barney through Asmongold. So, and my point here being is, it's good on smaller creators to do this. Now, at the time, Barney was a much smaller creator, and I brought this side up to show that this is Barney's newest video, and then blue. There's not much of a difference between the view rate of the original, and I think that's because Asmon did the original, and then they make up for it with now having a lot more subscribers, right? So Asmongold's effect on one of Barney's videos nowadays is a lot less, and arguably harmful to Barney. I think it's rather harmful because their communities are so interlocked. Asmongold, I'm sorry, buddy. A big chunk of your audience came from World of Warcraft. A big chunk of your audience still plays World of Warcraft. So if you're gonna, react to World of Warcraft videos, there's a chance that is taking away, especially when the bigger content creator, of a size like Barney with 1 million subs, there's a chance you're taking away views, right? Now, again, it's up to the content creator. If Barney enjoys, and I know she does, she comes into your chat and says, watch this. I think that is awesome, right? I think that is helpful, but realistically, probably taking away some of the views that would be spent on Barney's video. Because if I'm being honest, I would rather watch Asmongold react to Barney's video than watch just Barney's video alone. That's my thought, right? And so I think of channels of equal level or higher will always be negatively affected by the React content. With a smaller channel and the React content here, smaller channel wins. You go up. If the content creator is here, the React content creator is here, and here is the bigger channel, you're bringing yourself up. It's more selfish on that end, just because it's the same amount of selfishness, I would wager, but you're not helping the other channel as much, right? That's the reality. So, what is the legality of all this? Well, let's dig into it, because it's not black and white. It is wildly gray and painful. I'm sure you've seen a lot of these copyright videos. Hell, go watch the old Actman saga. It's crazy. And a lot of these laws come from copyright infringement. That is the name of the game. That and fair use work in tandem and are at odds, depending on the way you look at it, right? And this, I'm going to talk about U.S. law simply because that's where I live and that's what is relevant to me. And I would wager any of you watching. But Copyright infringement is the use of works protected by copyright without permission of the original content creator, right? It seems straightforward, right? And it's super important and widely used. I'm sure you've got them, depending on how old you are, but back in the day when you had DVDs, a big FBI warning comes on talking about copyright law. Because you could just copy that, burn it, and sell your own DVDs. And that's illegal because you're taking money out of the pocket of the original owner and putting it into your pocket. But there is fair use. And I'm not going to get into what makes it fair use because I think that's impossible, right? It's hard. There's no like rule. There's no hard set, rule of thumb. If you're being transformative and adding, you are under fair use. If the original video is 10 minutes and you spend 20 extra minutes for a 30-minute long video, adding your opinions and your thoughts and your takes, that is fair use as you are transforming the content, right? This is tough, and I think fair use, especially in the content creation community, wins more times than it doesn't. Although you could argue a lot of the YouTube stuff is copyright driven, not fair use driven. More times than not, fair use wins and copyright loses. There's a lot of reaction content creators, and the majority of them are not getting struck. That's the reality. And fair use, like here, look, this is a huge example of a recent case. 2021, Google versus Oracle, fair use versus copyright. Oracle created the Java programming API applications, which is about 11,000 lines of source code that Google took and added to their Android OS, right? Then Google got huge. Google made a lot of fucking money off of this code, right? So Oracle sued them for $8.8 billion. And the Supreme Court ruled 6-2 that it was fair use because if you look at the original code and then go compare the Android operating system, yeah, it was transformative. Yeah, perhaps, a core part, but it was under fair use. So this is to show even on this massive corporate scale, fair use still wins out time to time. On the content scale, fair use wins majority of the time. And a lot of people talk about when it doesn't because it's a big deal, because it usually wins. Another part of this, and the other side, and I think it's worthy to note, this is not the same as what we're talking about for content. TV and movies will always strike you. That is, they consider illegal. Even if you're reacting and you could argue fair use, they're going to still attempt it, and that's the reality. This was a Shanghai, I want to say, like, it's like the equivalent of YouTube there. And they were sued because people were reacting to Word of Honor, a TV show. They got sued for that and lost, obviously, right? And I tried to look up more about this case. As you can see, it did not really give me what I had hoped. Anyways, it is a weird line to walk, and it is hard to say what is right and what is not. But let's just give us an overview, right? And I'm changing my point here. Let's say there's 4 parties involved. YouTube, the content creator original, the React streamer, and the viewer. YouTube makes money off of content, of React content. As long as they're, to an extent, right? If they're getting sued, then they stop making money. So their job is to make sure that, and that's why they tend to listen to the copyright strikes, because they're liable. They'll sue, people can sue YouTube. If you're streaming Hell's Kitchen and the creator of Hell's Kitchen gets angry, they can sue YouTube for allowing this to happen and get a much bigger payday than trying to sue a Pokemon. Right? YouTube's liable. So that is why they tend to work for the copyright. But YouTube makes money off of React content. That's just, it's simply more views. It's not a one-to-one comparison on view stealing. So there was just an influx of views. Straight up. That's it. YouTube wins. As long as they're not getting sued. The original content creator. It's in the air. As I stated, I think small content creators always win when a bigger content creator reacts to their content. I think that similar sized content creators, especially when you're different communities, win. But similar sides and above, it starts to become harmful from the original content. But again, it should be up to the original content creator, whether or not they approve of that. You know, and that's why a lot of content creators now have in their description, if you don't want me using your stuff, let me know and I'll take it down. Because it's easier, right? And they don't want to go through a legal battle on fair use versus copyright. Lastly, the viewer wins. I mean, that's obvious. The streamer who reacts obviously wins. It's easy, it's fast, it is profitable. The viewer wins because it's better content. That's the reality. So, positive or negative, it's up to the person. It's up to the original content owner to decide that, because everyone else is probably in the net positive category. So, that's my thoughts. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. I went 25 minutes. Gosh darn it. Oh well. Subscribe. I have 0 subscribers. Please subscribe. Bye.